You and Michael Chandler.
Oh, that's real.
That's
Yeah, that's real. Oh, this guy's really fake.
right.
He's fake, bro. And he might be a good person at home, but my personal experience, he's fake. And he's a cheater. And then, dude, bro, I could go on for days. I get so amped up about this.
Let it
'Cause
out.
let me
Let
tell
it
you
out.
what. I get pissed off. He does all kind of stuff, man. Look, I'm retiring this next one, but look, Chandler, you can get it anytime, buddy.
There we go. Sign him up.
All right, so I think we need to have an honest discussion about why Michael Chandler is one of the most disliked fighters in the UFC right now, not just by fans, but by fighters as well. And hey, if you're a big Michael Chandler fan, then that's all good. You're free to like whoever you want. But let's not sit here and pretend that this guy isn't one of the most artificially polished, painfully inauthentic fighters on the UFC roster. On top of that, let's also not ignore the fact that he has a long documented history of blatant cheating in fights and getting away with it scot-free. And somehow throughout his entire UFC career, this guy has been given some of the most Dana White privileged matchups I've ever seen. And yeah, we'll be talking about all this and more throughout this video. So let's start off with his fake media persona that he forces down our throats. Now, to be fair, being well-spoken and presenting yourself as a professional isn't inherently a bad thing, but when it comes to Chandler, there's just something about him that rubs people the wrong way, myself included. The guy is always talking in these overly rehearsed monologues like he's trying to audition for an ESPN analyst role before he even retires. Every post-fight interview, every media appearance, every single time this guy has a mic in front of him, it feels like he's reading off of a script. It's like he's trying so hard to come across as some sort of inspirational, motivational speaker that it just feels disingenuous. It's almost like the guy is cosplaying as the ultimate company man, which makes sense given how the UFC has treated him since he came over from Bellator. Let's not forget here, Chandler waltzed into the UFC and got a title shot after just one fight. One single fight. But Dana and the UFC love him, and honestly, I get why. The guy says all the right things, plays the game, never questions Dana, and always toes the company line. The UFC brass loves nothing more than a guy who will do whatever they say without a second thought and who drinks their Kool-Aid, and Chandler is their golden boy in that regard. You know, Mike really reminds me of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Both guys love to put on a squeaky clean public persona, they're both masters of giving PR-trained responses, and both guys just reek of insincerity. And look, maybe I'm totally wrong in saying this, and both guys are genuinely the picture-perfect people they portray themselves to be, but after hearing the 100th speech where they sound like a youth pastor trying to inspire the masses, people are gonna start to question their authenticity. Both of these guys are so obviously obsessed with maintaining their larger-than-life yet somehow at the same time salt-of-the-earth personas to the point where it feels overly curated. And then there's the constant motivational speeches. It's not even just when they're in front of a camera. Whenever these guys get access to their social media, they can't help but lecture us on the importance of hard work and whatever other empty platitudes they decide to use for that specific moment. Like, give it a fucking rest. God forbid if I want to go on Twitter or Instagram and not be lectured and spoken down to by a guy who doesn't have the self-awareness to realize how out of touch he seems to normal people. And honestly, I would be able to put up with Mike's cartoonishly corporate-friendly personality if it weren't for the fact that this guy is a straight-up dirty fighter, and dare I say it, the guy's a cheater. Whatever saint-like front he puts up for the cameras and the internet is diametrically opposed to his continued scummy actions in the ring. And the worst part is, this guy has pulled dirty moves in his 3 most recent losses, and he hasn't been called on it by the referees. Let's take a look at his fight with Justin Gaethje. Late into the second round after Chandler got dropped, he ended up poking Gaethje in the eye. Justin clearly displays that he got poked in the eye in a way that is completely impossible to misinterpret. The referee clearly steps in and calls for a timeout, and Chandler still proceeds to send a power right hand Gaethje's way. Mike then has the audacity to turn to the ref and throws his hands up in the air, and he pretends like he has no idea why the fight's been paused. Naturally, Justin gets pissed off in the moment because why wouldn't he be? He slaps Michael's hand down after Chandler tries to do a meaningless fake apology and storms back to his corner while he struggles to get his eye to reopen. Then in the third round, after Chandler works his way back up to his feet after being taken down, he grabs the fence to prevent being taken down again. Now let's talk about his fight with Dustin Poirier. After losing the first round, Chandler took Poirier's back and immediately landed a clear punch to the back of the head. Then a couple of moments later, you can clearly see Mike reach into Dustin's mouth to lift his head up to sink in a rear naked choke, which prompts the ref to tell Mike to cut that shit out.
Then he stuck his fingers in my mouth.
Oh my god.
To lift my neck up for a rear naked choke, right? He's on my back. I'm trying to get up off the fence. He sticks his fingers inside my mouth, grips my mouth guard, pulls my head up to try to get his hand under my chin. Bro, I bite his fingers so hard. Let me tell you what.
Some Mike Tyson stuff.
Hey, you heard it here first. Let me tell you what. If I didn't have a mouth guard on my top teeth, if my teeth could touch together,
You bit his fingers off?
oh, bro, he'll be walking and rocking like this forever. Hey, because I had a grip so good, I felt my bottom teeth go into his skin. I bet you he was cut. He knows what I'm talking about, you hoe.
Then with a minute left in the round, I shit you not, Chandler lands 9 clear hammer fists to the back of Poirier's head, which somehow isn't enough for the ref to pause the fight in order to give Chandler at least a hard warning. I love this still image of Michael objecting to the ref that these somehow weren't illegal strikes, even though they definitely were, all while Dustin gives the ref the biggest bruh in UFC history. This is like 10 fouls in one round. I have no idea how Mike didn't get a point deducted.
I mean, those are all behind the head. That seemed like every shot was the back of the head.
I thought so too.
Oh boy, now let's talk about his most recent fight against Charles Oliveira. First round, he poked Charles in the eye, then a couple of moments later, he grabbed the top of the cage to prevent being taken down. At the end of the first round, he punches Oliveira 3 times to the back of the head, but to be fair, Charles is also blatantly latching his fingers into the fence while this is happening. 2 minutes into the third round, Chandler can be seen latching onto the fence for 7 whole seconds.
Chandler's holding onto the fence.
Yeah.
Then, less than a minute later, as his back is taken, Mike can be seen wrapping his fingers into Oliveira's gloves, which makes Charles look up at the ref to object. Midway into round 4, Mike wraps his toes into the fence to gain leverage on the ground. Then, with about 15 seconds left in the round, you can see Mike once again wrapping his fingers into Charles' gloves. And after more than a dozen fouls that haven't even gotten a hard warning, Mike caps off his Cheetah-palooza in the 5th round. 1 minute into the round, he pokes Charles in the eye again, and as Oliveira is trying to recover, Mike is able to knock him down. While they're on the ground, Mike straight up lands at least a dozen shots to the back of the head. These strikes are so clearly illegal that you can hear the commentators screaming about how dirty they are.
Oh, behind the head! Behind the head! Big shots from He's behind the head! Ropes! That's all behind the head.
I'm not here to criticize, but I'm gonna tell you something. There were a lot of blows to the back of the head, a lot of fence grabbing. There was also some eye pokes.
Do you guys see what I'm trying to say here? Whenever Mike starts to feel like he's behind in the fight, he'll resort to pulling out every dirty move in the book in order to quite literally claw his way back into it. And I don't know if it's the fact that he's in the UFC's good graces or if the referees are actually this incompetent, but it's infuriating to me that he's never had a single point deducted after more than, 3 dozen fouls in his last 3 losses? Like, what the fuck does a fighter have to do in order for some real officiating to be done? This guy is such a walking contradiction. He loves to posture and act like a gladiator, scream at the crowd, pound his chest, and play up the theatrics. But at the same time, when things don't go his way, he resorts to dirty tactics and cheap tricks to get an advantage. Beyond his in-cage cheating, Chandler's behavior outside of competition rubs people the wrong way as well. He's constantly painting himself as this ultra hardworking fighter, but at the same time, he definitely gets undeserving matchups. He sat on the sidelines waiting for a Conor McGregor payday for over 2 years instead of fighting legitimate contenders and earning his spot. And then when he actually does return, and while coming off of a loss, he somehow gets the #1 contender in Charles Oliveira. Like, what? Fans aren't dumb. We see through the bullshit. We see a guy who talks like a saint but fights like a rule-bending opportunist. We see a guy who has been gifted opportunity after opportunity without truly earning it the hard way. And this is not just my own perspective either. Many other fighters have openly criticized Chandler for his antics. Obviously, Dustin Poirier has called out Chandler multiple times. Grant Dawson just recently said that he's not a good fighter and a coward.
I think that Michael Chandler is a coward wearing the facade of an entertainer. I think that he doesn't actually mean the things that he says. I think that he is, I want the greatness and I want the... No, you don't, dude. No, you don't. You want to pretend like you're this big entertainer. Go fight Patty. I don't even like Patty. Go fight Patty.
Islam Makhachev and Arman Sarukian have both called him out for being dumb for waiting so long for a fight with Conor McGregor. Then we have RDA mocking his "See you at the top" slogan by reminding Mike that he's never been a UFC champion like RDA was. Now, of course, this is the fight game where it's natural for fighters to talk trash to other fighters, but in the case of Michael Chandler, there seems to be a larger than usual amount of disdain that his peers hold towards him. A lot of the top lightweights aren't fans of how he's constantly been given high-profile fights, even though he has a losing UFC record. It is the UFC lightweight division where every single guy has been grinding their way through the rankings and taking tough fights against high-level opponents, while Chandler sits back and waits for a big-name fight to fall into his lap. That kind of thing doesn't go unnoticed in the MMA community. And let's be real here, if Chandler wasn't the UFC's golden boy, would he still even be ranked as highly as he is? His UFC record is not good. Since joining the promotion, he's 2-4, where one of his wins was the ghost of Tony Ferguson. Yet in spite of this, Chandler is still treated like a top contender simply because he's a yes man to Dana. In my opinion, Chandler has become more of a businessman than a fighter. He's not in the game to be the best, he's in it to maximize his earnings and get the biggest fights possible. And while that's definitely not a bad thing, it does contradict the persona that he tries to sell. If Chandler was just honest about being a prize fighter first and foremost, it wouldn't be as annoying. But instead, he continues to present himself as some kind of noble warrior, all while being gifted high-profile fights and breaking the rules inside the cage. At the end of the day, Mike can continue putting up this front pretending like he's something that he's not, but both fighters and fans know exactly what he is. He's a UFC golden boy who gets preferential treatment, a serial cheater who never gets penalized, and he's an overly manufactured character who comes off as anything but genuine. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know what you think about Chandler. Is the hate towards him warranted, and do you think he can make it past Paddy Pimblett in his next fight? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
He does all kind of stuff, man. Blows the blood in my eyes after I break his nose. That's cool. I've done that before. Okay. I'm not mad at him for that. It's war.
Right.
Whatever, you know, we're
by
fighting.
any means necessary.
Yeah.
You know, without cheating.
Without cheating. That's
Yes.
just, I've done that. A guy broke my nose in Vegas. I fought a guy named Joseph Duffy, the first guy to ever beat Conor McGregor. He made it to the UFC. I fought him. Robbie Lawler and Carlos Condit was the main event. I fought him there. We might have got fight of the night or something. Or, no, we got something. It was a crazy, it was bloody fight. But anyway, I was bleeding all over him,
right.
elbowing him, trying to make him blink so I could, you know, elbow him. I was on top of him. But I admitted it after.
Yeah.
And then Chandler, I brought it up, and he said he didn't do it. Like, just admit it, bro. You're so fake.